I want to talk a little bit about these stupid news setups. Sometimes they'll be ones that I'm doing right now, and sometimes they're in the past. But when the Supreme Court woman passed away, that was a good one where the market got hit pretty hard on that. And I was bullish on the market for different reasons. And that was, I thought, a good stupid news play to buy the market on that. The art form is how to get in, how long to wait, when are you wrong, like all that's the stuff that I study, go over 50 or 100 of them and study and really understand how to do it better. Which ones are really explosive? It's when they're with the trend. So that was like when they had the Chinese internet stocks were starting to move on their own, and then you got the huge pullback on the congressional delisting stuff. I don't know, it was like 4 or 5 months ago now, maybe more, but that was one of my better trades this year. And then recently Amazon Pharmacy and with the Rite Aid and CVS stuff, I thought that was a really good one. So that was, Rite Aid ended up being the best play. I did CVS, it wasn't as good. Walgreens was the worst play of the bunch, and I have to look into why. One was better than the other, but that was one I liked. I'm trying to think. Smith & Wesson is one I'm doing right now with Trump looking like he might win really quickly on the election night and then not winning. There was a huge sell-off on that, thinking that the protests are going to end. I think that's stupid news. I'm not sure that guns care about that. I think the movement from people from cities to suburbs is a way bigger driver of guns, and they've had really good earnings. They have a good longer-term chart. There was another one in Smith & Wesson recently, a stupid news headline. I forget what it was. I'll come back to it if I remember. But so I'm in that one right now. I'm trying to pick it up in the mid to low 15s. I have gotten shaken out of it once with a small loser already, so it's not perfect because it's kind of in a sloppy sideways move right now, but that's one that I think whenever you get headlines that shake the positioning and change that, it can set up for a nice move. Because if something's cheap but everybody owns it, it's not really going to go up much because there's not that many people left to buy it, and that ends up being the game a lot of times, is stuff that's either neglected or not owned by a lot of people. And when that shifts, so if something is owned by a lot of people and you really like it and it gets hit with some dumb headlines or some stuff that's not relevant or whatever the reason is, then you often get the shakeout of that positioning and that participation changes. And when that happens, it's back on again. It's something that you can buy because it's like buying the thing that everyone knows is good. Everyone's bought it already. There's not much left there for you. So that's the way I think about it. And that's the way I've traded during the day a lot. And I'm kind of trying to move that over into stocks. And it seems like that's working pretty well. It doesn't produce a ton of trades. These trades exist during the day, but I'm looking at the ones that last a little bit longer period of time. So those are some ones I've done recently. Going back this year, I'm trying to think if there's another one. I think there's another one I did that I liked. In Canopy Growth was a really good one a few years ago with Attorney General Jeff Sessions, who was hard on marijuana, and everyone knew he was going to resign. And those stocks had all cracked from the top, and they had gone down a lot, and they retraced like 2/3 of the way back up on him resigning. So I sold into that, and it continued to make new lows. So one of my things is when there's stupid news and there's a trend, it usually makes a new trend move. Like it'll take a new high or new low eventually. It's hard oftentimes to sit with the trade that long, but it'll do that. So I'm trying to continue to study and learn more about these trades because these are trades that you can't really program. They're more right-brained trades, but you have to study them, understand them, and kind of pay attention to the news, and it just spontaneously happens. They kind of just hit you in the face. They're not things that you can really line up with a checklist every day and wait for them. They just show up, and you don't know when, and that's the beauty of them because it gets people to puke out of their positions and creates an opportunity. So, if you bought something at a bad spot and you get some news like this, you just got to get out because you don't want to take the financial risk, and that's the opportunity. So it seems like, duh, buddy, you just buy bad news, that's been happening for the end of time, but it's not exactly this. It's a little different. It's negative news that really doesn't have a darn bit to do with the story. Tesla battery fires back when it came out was another one I liked. Of course, they're going to correct that. The batteries were placed too low and they were scraping, and the stock went down like 50% or something, I remember. There's so many of these that happen, and you can just look for them in all different time frames during the day too. So that's kind of what I'm going to look at focusing more on next year is really perfecting this trade. It's been a trade that I do a lot of other stuff that is hit and miss, and these have been pretty hit. So I'm going to work on these even more. And then my other strategies are there's some new strategies I'm working on that I'm not quite sure how much I'm going to have to be adding them into what I do, but it's more of an experimental process. But these are kind of a core thing that works. So I'm going to go with that and just make it stronger versus I got stuck, as you heard on the last podcast, I got stuck with trying to bring in too much more new stuff, and it kind of made me feel anxious and made me feel like I had to do all this stuff and all this work. And that doesn't necessarily mean, this is a weird business where you do all this work and doesn't mean you're going to do better. Sometimes you actually do worse. So it's kind of like doing the right work and waiting for the right stuff. So I would like to take my trade frequency down and continue to take it down because I think I could do better that way. And some years, though, it makes sense for me to trade more. Like in March and April, I was trading more and I was doing really well because it was busy. It was right up my wheelhouse. But now I think I need to trade less. And it's also kind of the direction of the life I want to live is to trade less, hang around with my family a little more, have more peace. I think I can also make a lot more money doing that. So it's not like I'm taking away from anything trading wise. I just think it can be a win across the board. But doing that when you're used to not doing that is kind of tough. It's like trying to run two different races. And I've said that 1,000 times. So anyways, this is one of the things I'm going to focus on, and I'll come back on later, or maybe not soon, but maybe in a few weeks or something, or a few months, and talk about other things that I'm focusing on because there's other strategies I'm working on too. But this is one of them for now.